Stay on target, gamers. I'm Matt, and I make games. I make video games professionally, and my hobby is to make other kinds of games, including board games, role-playing games, LARPs, card games, you name it. I've probably tried to make it. In Game Design Game, I share my design tips and ideas with you. And in today's episode, I'm continuing my playthrough of Tomb Raider Legend, where I'm going to be discussing more of the jump targeting and attachment mechanics. I had a little bit of discussion about jump takeoff in the previous episode. And jumping is a very complicated feature in video games, so there's probably going to be more topics about this in future videos as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably seeing a shortened version. I'm trying to get the episode lengths down under an hour, if not even less than that. However, I do make a full playthrough video episode, and you can find that through my Patreon. The link is below. And if you're interested in these game design topics and want to either find out more detail about how they work or have discussions about different ways to do these sorts of things, the Game Design Game Discord is a great place to have those discussions. The link for that is also below. Game Design Game. All right, we're about to dive back into Tomb Raider Legend. This is, I believe, Chapter 4 of the game, Ghana. A brief recap. As a child, Lara's mother disappeared through some strange ancient device mishap. And now grown up, Lara is trying to find out more about that device. And she's tracked down some pieces of an ancient artifact, a sword or staff of some sort, that seems to have been broken. And she's finding clues about what it was and where to find these pieces. So she's heading to Ghana to track down a rival explorer, James Rutland, who is looking for the same thing. And she's found out that he's in this area.
No sign of Rutland so far. Have we worked out what he's doing here?
No, but there's something else. When I was going over the map, Winston said your parents have been there. Your dad worked the site before you were born.
That's not so peculiar. It happens occasionally.
Okay, we're in Ghana, West Africa, and continuing to track down the pieces of this sword object that Lara thinks holds the key to where her mother went.
I do my best thinking plunging off cliffs.
So that's it. Then we're supposed to jump off here. And let's talk about Swan Dive. Press jump button and then the crouch or down button quickly while moving forward. I'll do that in a moment. First I want that to go away. Let's see if we can get into... This game is circa 2006, but water still looks pretty decent. Alright, so Swan Dive, you'll find this in most Tomb Raider games. And it's really just jump and down, or jump crouch buttons in rapid succession while moving forward. Timing is often tricky, and that's because so when you press that jump button, so here's a jump in place. So 3, 2, 1, press. You can see Lara does a little compression with her legs before jumping. And when we're running, it's not as much compression time. So 3, 2, 1, press. she jumps pretty quickly. So moving forward, the time between pressing the jump button and actually jumping is really quite small. And when she jumps, she's got to decide what animation to play. So the reason that the timing on the swan dive is sometimes tricky is that if it's not tricky, if we let it go too long, it means she's doing a regular ground jump with her body fully upright, like all of these jumps. And she can only go into a swan dive animation when she knows that's what you're actually doing. So the timing is pretty stingy on this, especially since it's kind of a flourish move. It doesn't have any special gameplay benefits, sometimes a little added depth on landing. So I'm going to try and pull this off with a quick jump crouch AB, which I sometimes do by just sliding my thumb, because these buttons are adjacent, or rolling it across both really quickly. So let's see if I can pull this off. Here we go.
The water's absolutely perfect. I've missed Ghana.
Tour off the ground. Bridge. Bridge. Advantage. Alright, grapple it on the bridge. This is a swing rope. So that's probably where I jump to from there. Alright, let's first see what happens if I do this. Okay, good stuff. Rope fixed. It's telling me I need to pull it down. Okay, it's just telling me how to do that. Can't grapple, can't shoot. Oh, but I pulled a pin, I see. That's what that is, that's it. Pulled out a locking pin, and now I should be able to grapple this. Fancy!
Oh, that's where we put the temple.
Grand entrances are always impractical. It's what makes them grand.
Lara!
So
You're a
profound.
busy beaver, aren't you?
Oh, look! It's Rutland. Fancy dropping down for a chat then?
Only if you can shoot this far.
You know long-distance relationships inevitably come to an end.
I'd wish you luck with that, but, you know.
Alistair should really have a look at this.
He's still trying to figure out where these sword pieces originally came from. Just you and me for now.
Remember a funny development bug, I think, in the early days of this drawbridge, where Lara's foot IK that I talked about in an earlier episode would stick to the bridge, but she would kind of forget her position, so her body would stay low and her feet would end up rising with the bridge while the rest of her didn't, and it looked very strange. However, it's fixed. You're welcome. So I saw the grapple in the distance.
What kind of ancient
I
artifact
wanted
you
to
got
see
there?
how easily it
The
came over
modern
here,
kind.
and the answer is
Rutland's men must
easily.
have been using it to move about.
Okay, I've got some swing ropes. I've got a floating platform that moves from grapple pull. There's some deep water here. I don't yet see any reason to go into the water. There might be prize down there, but... so this gets me now within range of the swing rope. At least the first one. I'm just looking to see where else I might go, and the answer is there's not a lot around here. So I'm going to assume I can jump to that next one. Okay. So yeah, that was basically a little section that is teaching me that I can pull these rafts. And that will probably become useful later. And so the water is here to catch me if I fall. And also to help the raft float.
I've seen this before. In my father's sketchbook. He has been here.
Well, that doesn't look friendly.
He's still about somewhere.
Not very effective for a trap.
Not these days. Something must be jamming the works.
So this is warning me that there's probably a trap ahead. I should stay alert. Don't know if it's a quick time. Teaching me about pressure plates. It lifts that gate at the end, so I have a time limit to go through that gate. Lots of guys in here. High platforms. Rope. Water wheels. Swing poles. Okay.
This water wheel appears to be jammed.
We might never know what it does. That pillar looks too heavy to move.
There's more than one way to get a wheel spinning.
Work again.
Water wheels got things running again. Congratulations, you got your wish. The place is a death trap.
It needed a woman's touch.
So that was a very elaborate camera move, showing me several things, showing the water wheels moving, the traps are going, second water wheel's not moving, and there's a corridor with traps up there. My destination. So let's see what happens if I ride this water wheel. little bit about jump targeting moving objects, because that grab was butter smooth. Very nice. So, we've got a pretty tricky setup here. We've got this wheel with the 4 spears sticking out of it, but the spears act as swing poles. And they're all in motion. And I came off of this rope, but it looks like I could probably also jump from here and grab them. And in situations like this, the jump targeting is pretty complicated. Targeting a moving object is already troubling. And so yeah, I'm going to show a few things here and then go to a drawing board and talk about all the complex things that are happening here. I'm going to show a few more examples, hopefully from the side, where you can kind of see Lara's movement a little better. That's a pretty good one. So we go from moving to moving. I don't know if there's enough room for that here, but we're going to try. Nice. Okay. Yes. Ooh. So let's do a couple more here. But yeah, these are nice examples of moving target jumps. Okay. Those are some good examples there. Okay, so jump targeting and hand grabs. So we're looking at the water wheel puzzle, but what I'm talking about here will apply to all sorts of hand grabs to a horizontal markup. The usual case is the ledges around the world, but it works very similarly for these horizontal poles. So here's an image of the water wheel from the side, and it's got these 4 horizontal swing poles, and when the water wheel moves, the swing poles move as well. And this is an advanced case of jump targeting. The goal is to let Lara jump from one pole to the next and keep it smooth even when the poles are in motion. But before I talk about the motion, I'm going to stick to a simpler case, which is really just 2 poles. Here we have them viewed from the side. And although these are poles, they could be any distance apart in theory. And over the course of the motion, one might be higher or lower than the other. And we want, at least in a large portion of this possible range, we want Lara to be able to jump from one pole to the other smoothly and without any big noticeable pops. A pop is like kind of when she teleports briefly. And you'll see pops like that in some games, though modern games have gotten pretty good about animating these poles nicely. And while I talk about them as poles, technically this works the same if we're talking about a ledge grab, let's say. So here's a side view of a ledge with a floor up here and a wall down here. And that ledge and that horizontal pole are very similar in terms of when the player is trying to jump from one to the other. The whole works could be at any particular position, but really what makes these similar in how they work is, of course, the sort of three-dimensional aspect of this, the actual pole itself. So we call this a horizontal markup, and in that sense, the pole and the ledge cases are very similar. So we're talking about the poles here, so we'll stick to that. when we do a jump, it's very easy to, when the source and the landing are not moving. So if we had these horizontal poles fixed to a building like they were in the Japan level, it's very easy for the designers to predict the jump arc. So this orange line sort of represents the parabolic arc of motion that the player uses to get from one markup to the other. And we can lay these out so that it lines up nicely. The player can go from one to the other, and the grab is almost guaranteed to be smooth because there aren't any confusing variables here. And you'll notice that one markup could be higher than the other, but if it's also closer by the right amount, this arc still grabs it and very smoothly. So this would be sort of a jump up. So a jump up might be closer and higher. And then a far jump is often the same height but farther away. But if we extend this jump arc, we could also have a very far jump. It's far and down. Mostly the game does not try to do this because it's very hard for the player to see these jumps and to judge their distances. But these are the ideal case, and this is where everything is sort of still and predictable. And the problem comes when things are in motion, or when instead of coming off of a pole, if the player is jumping off of a ledge. So instead of thinking of these dots as her hands for purposes of this discussion, I'm going to talk about it as if it's her feet. So when jumping ledge to ledge, what you'll notice is that if I jump at the very last moment, I can very easily jump onto this purple ledge. But if I jump too early, I might only barely make it, and possibly not even make it at all, depending on how far apart these ledges are. This can have a big impact on how easy it is for the player to make the jump. So the farther apart I put them, the harder it is for the player to succeed at that jump, and the more sensitive it is to jumping early or late. So this makes ground jumping have one extra complication that we don't get on these horizontal pole jumps, because the horizontal pole, you can't jump off of it early in the sense of farther away. So the horizontal poles are actually one of the easier cases when things are not moving. I'll get more into ground jumping in a later episode, but that's just something to think about, and how this will come up later, and with an extra bit of complication. So let me get rid of that. Go back to this horizontal pole. So this is how the positioning affects things, and how when the poles are in motion. Now, although the whole wheel is spinning and both poles are in motion, for purposes of the player's jump, really we just think about it as what is the position of the target pole relative to the pole they're coming off of. So even though both poles are moving, the target pole is getting a little bit closer, a little bit farther away, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So it's doing something like this. But we still want these jump grabs to be smooth. So what becomes important in solving this problem is first understanding the concept of the jump trajectory. So this little purple arrow I've added is the velocity of the player at the time that they jump off of the horizontal pole. The other nice thing about horizontal poles is in the code, in the jump data, we can determine exactly when the player comes off of the pole, at what part around the swing they release from the pole. So if they're swinging around, we can always determine some angle and release the player at that angle. So even if they hit the button early, we can wait until they get to the point where we want to release, so that their whole body is headed in the correct direction for that jump takeoff. And looking at that velocity, it also breaks down into a horizontal component and a vertical component. So the vertical component is sort of how much upward the player's motion is, and the horizontal component is how fast they move forward. And these two play together to make this orange parabola over time, because we also have gravity pulling down. I'll just use the green for this. So at any given moment, the gravity is making this upward component smaller and smaller, and eventually it becomes a downward component of movement. So at this very apex, we have all this forward velocity and almost no vertical velocity. But by the time we get down to a later point in the jump, we still have the same forward velocity because nothing is changing that over time normally. But gravity has made our downward velocity larger, and so now we're moving forward and down instead of forward and up, which is where we started. All right, here's a simple cutout image of Lara I took from the video. Excuse the crudity of this model. So when she releases from the horizontal pole, she swings up. Now, when this is animated, she may be rotating in interesting ways that I don't think I can demonstrate here very easily. In any case, she is going to follow this path. So since this pole represents where her hands are, you can think of it as her hand as following this orange line, and that we want her to grab this pole even though it's not quite on the line. And the way that we can do that is at the moment that she lets go, her sort of intended direction is set by a velocity here, which we broke down into those horizontal and vertical components. But we can project along this line, you sort of do a little math, and say, well, do we come close to any targets? And we can actually find this destination along her path and say, well, it's not quite on her path, but we have a good idea of where it is, and we can estimate with some math how long it's going to take her to get here. And there's two kinds of estimates that we can do. We can treat each of these components of movement in a different way. We can say, well, if we're just talking about the forward distance, I know how long it's going to take her to get here, because I know that she's moving forward at sort of this horizontal version of speed, and I know that it's going to take these many time units, or frames of the game. Frame is how long it takes to process one rendering picture of the game, and it's all of the code that happens underneath there. So if this velocity represents speed per frame or distance per frame, this is how many frames it's going to take her to get that far. And so that's a time horizontal. So that's how we determine the horizontal time. There's also a math way to figure out how much time it takes her to go up and down to the same point. So if you think of it as how long does it take her to get to this sort of vertical position on her orange arc, it's this much time, which is a little bit shorter. We can pick one of those that we want to sort of keep the same. So knowing how long it takes her to get approximately there, we know maybe how long it takes her to go up and down that amount and how much it would take her to go just forward that amount. We can use either one of them or some value in between, and we can just decide how long we want it to take Lara to get there. That's approximately the same as the time it takes her to get to this sort of nearest point, which you can either think of as the nearest vertical point, or the nearest horizontal point, or the nearest point somewhere in between them. So we decide how much time we want it to take, and then we can come back and we can adjust these velocities a little bit. We could say, well, what if she jumps forward just slightly faster than she normally does? So then she gets the same vertical velocity, but she gets a little bit more forward distance, and that changes the arc slightly. So that just changes it to be, it goes just as high because we didn't change the vertical velocity, but we changed the forward velocity, and now that gets her enough extra forward distance. I haven't drawn the parabola very well here freehand, but the idea is we get her enough extra distance that we sort of have calculated a speed that gets her right where we want her. So that's the first part of getting the smooth hand grab. That's when everything is still. And essentially when we do this, we know how long it's going to take her to get there. And we know that she's going to get very, very close because we have adjusted this velocity to match. And so that means we can play the animation out to carry her along very smoothly. We can play the animation out so that it looks really good when she attaches. So we can decide, okay, she's jumping far enough forward that this is going to be a pretty extreme grab. So we might have her tilt forward and play this sort of reaching forward pose as she reaches that grab point. And typically this pose will be if she's grabbing it sort of below where she started or on her way down, as opposed to this pose on this side, which is used more often when she's grabbing it on the way up. And this is just because of how people kind of move around in the air. So in any case, we know when she's going to get there, so we can predict exactly where she should be, where to put her hands, and animate all of this to match the timing of the jump and the distance. And when these horizontal poles are still, we can get very accurate with this, and such that any last minute adjustments we need to do when she goes from the jump part to actually attaching, it happens quickly, and the distance is so small that when the game is running at normal speed, you can't even see it. I'll probably play one very slow version just so you can see the pop very easily, and then I'll play it at normal speed, and you'll be able to see that it's not really visible. It happens so quickly. So this is when the launch point and the catch point are at fixed distances, not moving. Everything is predictable, and that makes it really easy. Now, when things are in motion, it does get a little more complex, but not a lot. If they're moving slowly, so if they're moving slowly, we do everything similarly, but we have two ways to handle this. So one is we can know how fast these parts are moving. This is a piece that we've built. We've animated it. We can set how fast these pieces are moving, and we can take that velocity into account. So where earlier I showed how we could predict how long it takes her to get there, well, if we know how fast these parts are moving, then we can also predict where the part is going to be after that amount of time. So we can adjust our estimates and say, oh, if it's headed towards her, then her jump might take a little less time, but this piece will be moved a little closer or a little higher or a little lower. And we can take all of that into account, adjust the time, and adjust this starting jump to hit that prediction. Now, so that prediction works fairly well when the pieces are moving fairly slowly and in straight lines. The faster they move and the less predictably that they move, so like on this curve of this rotating wheel, the harder it gets. And so that means it gets to the point where it's hard to be 100% perfect in our predictions, but we have other tricks we can use. which is we can update our prediction. So once we're in the air and we're sort of on this orange parabola, we can check that math every frame that we process this jump. We can say, well, now where's Lara and where is, what's her velocity and what's this object's motion? Does that change the timing at all? And if it changes the timing, we can adjust her speed or her animation pose to handle that difference. So we can slightly adjust her speed over time, so that her prediction gets more and more accurate the closer we get to the end. And because we are adjusting this every frame by just a little bit, the player can't see those changes. They're very small, and they're happening every frame. And so as long as this motion, again, is slow and we have some accurate way of predicting it, then we just get corrections every frame, and at that very last second, we might have to do a small amount of popping. And so that's how, even with some motion, we can still line up these jumps so that Lara grabs them nicely just about every time. And this really only doesn't work if the motion is sort of fast and unpredictable. Some of those scaffolding swings in Japan, they can torque around left to right, they can swing at different rates. But in those cases, mostly Lara was landing on her feet. And so the big surface area for landing means we don't really need to correct. These sorts of corrections are most important when she's doing hand grab attaches or otherwise doesn't have a lot of leeway for error. All right, let's get back into the game. Riding moving platforms can be a little tricky, but flat ground platforms like this, they're not too hard if they're moving slowly or a little bit. If they start moving quickly, there's some tricky things that happen in regards to jumping. That's not an issue when they're moving that slowly. But if the platform's moving quickly, then the character needs to take its motion into account when they jump. It changes their jump velocity. So the acrobatic flourishes are a nice touch. Look at it. Sit on the... Yeah. Grapple the barrel and set it rolling. Yay, physics. Barrel. It's a grappleable thing that then pulls this thing across. Okay. Here, let's get a little more height. Line it up. Another example is text. Okay. That's one turn. That's here. This is one box. These are that's only one series. Blocks if the camera cooperates. Counterweight system. That gets me up to the ladder. Except I'm going to take it before it's that far up. Okay. So there we go. I got to jump from the big block to the other big block to the ladder. Alright, that wasn't too bad. So, pillar, gate, chains, platforms. So, camera's very intentionally showing me all the elements that I need to consider to solve this puzzle. It's a lot. They showed a lot all at once. So. Okay, those are some climbing ledges. Those get me on top of that. That looks like a grappleable something, which I probably can't get from here. Too far. Okay. So I'm going to assume I want these. Oh, there's more over there. I see. Can't stand on top of that. Oh, here's a raft that's floating. There's a grappleable pillar. There's so much going on in this room, I don't have a plan. Just kind of going where it lets me go. Alright, so I've got a raft, and as you can see, the idea is I can pull this raft around using these posts. And yeah, it's an interesting additional use of the grapples. Use the grapple while standing on a raft to pull the raft. Counterweight stone and a ladder. It's telling us how to do jump back from a ladder. So yeah, ladders are interesting because down on the stick climbs down. And so there's not a great way for the player to there's potentially 5 different directions they want to signal on the ladder. They want to do right, left, up, down, and back. And so the way Tomb Raider Legends solves this is just by being quick about it. So when you're climbing down, just hit the jump button and it'll jump off. Counterweight, and I get across. Oh. I think I mistimed that. Yeah. And stand under the heavy block. I can't easily see where it's going, but least. So this is an interesting art challenge. You can see I've got some climbing ledges, and there's one ledge down there that's not all lit up in green. That one is probably not climbable. And this is one of the tricky things of ruins in Tomb Raider, is how to signal what can and can't be climbed. And so in this version, it's kind of lighting up some of the ledges and not others. It's a little artificial. In later games, Tomb Raider and others, it became popular to apply some sort of like scratches or paint in an eye-catching color so that the lighting could appear a little more natural. So a different way of achieving the same thing, but why those ledges look different. Okay, so this platform just flipped and dropped a heavy object below, but it's also a jumpable platform, so I'm going to jump on it. Turning, and traps are chomping.
Much better.
You know, you scare me.
You may want to close your eyes then.
Okay, like a water wheel behind me. Oh, that's funny. Come here. Physics. Let's go. So now I've got some chompy traps that will make my life easy. A little bit
What is it?
rumbling.
You hear something?
I feel something.
Oh, hell no!
Run, 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 jump!
I've
All right.
missed Ghana.
Narrowly escaping death again, I see.
There you are, Alistair. You found something about the sword fragment then?
A few things.
So I'm going to interrupt their chatter to talk about that trap. That was interesting. So, kudos for getting the Indiana Jones rollerball trap into a playable game. The Tomb Raider games were always inspired a bit by Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones movies. So we got the rollerball chasing her, and this also I want to commend is it could have been done as a quick time event with the timed button presses, but it was real play. I had to steer and dive under things and jump over things. It was all playable, and that felt pretty good, and it worked the way it was supposed to. A little bit like the smoke monster in let's see, episode 11, but this one worked out pretty nicely. Anyway, just wanted to praise that trap. Well designed, and felt pretty good. Back to our scheduled banter.
I extrapolated the markings on the artifact to get a sense of what the entire pattern would look like, and then I found what... Whoops, we have a
Alistair? Zip? That's odd.
Alright, something's happened to her team. On the ledge, the back jump is a little easier. And in the when I talked about the back jump from a ladder, down on the ladder means climb down, but on a ledge, there is no climb down in this version of Tomb Raider anyway. So down on the stick also treats the jump as backwards. Hi. Can't jump any direction. I don't know what I can do here other than drop down. Let's try it over. Oh, I see. Didn't see that. Yeah, so this is why visibility on ledges is a very tricky issue. Just from certain camera angles, kind of everything blends together. From others, it's very obvious. So I just didn't see that.
We should be here. Here's me.
Bridge. Let's try this again. Fall to my death part now. Not that part. Looks like I might be on a timer.
Lara, you came for the Galali key too then? Perfect.
Pretend I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you know, it's what puts the sword back together. It's the size of a fist. And according to Amanda's research, it's here.
What do you know about Amanda? Where is she?
So, your father did some digging here, didn't he? You know, Amanda thought maybe he found the key.
I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me about that sword fragment you're so fond of waving about.
Well, I have been spending some time with it, and I've learned a couple of things. Let me show you. Ready for this? Watch! Damn you, Lara! Watch! Ready for this? Watch! Bet you wish you could.
I'm really not your enemy, Rutland. These pieces weren't broken apart. They were designed to separate and reattach. The Galali key does that? I don't suppose you'd tell me where this came from. The Crusades? King Arthur?
History doesn't interest me.
Well, then why don't you stay here and consider the future? Make sure I'm not in it, however. You won't enjoy seeing me again.
Your father might not have found the Galali key, but Amanda doesn't know that. She's at your mansion right now. You better have good insurance.
God, finally! I've been trying to get through for ages. What happened?
This woman just saw her way through the front door. She had some sort of... I don't know what the hell it was. It was like black smoke.
I'll be there straight away.
No, we're fine. Look, you've got to follow her. She's going for another piece of the sword.
What? Where?
In Kazakhstan, I found a photo that matches the pieces you have.
All right. Do an inventory and try to locate something called the Galali key. Meanwhile, it looks as if I'm bound for colder climes.
Back warm.
I mean to be cold.
Game design game is not just video information. It is also a playable game. I'm not going to recap the rules this episode. If you want to find out more about how to play the game design game, I recommend starting with episode 0, which discusses the premise. Other episodes add to the rules, but if you want to find the complete set of rules so far, go to the Game Design Game Discord. The link is below. Next time on Game Design Game, continuing with Tomb Raider Legend playthrough, and we're headed to Kazakhstan, and I will find another aspect of the Tomb Raider game design to talk about in technical detail. Until next time, gamers, so long!